Identifying as depressed. Younger Aussie men facing rising isolation, declining relationships, and a crisis of purpose amid housing crisis. I'm still waiting for someone to say women most affected. Because we don't get these articles talking about men's issues without them trying to say how this is actually more of a women's problem. A chief executive of a Australian think tank has warned that younger men are dating less, marrying later, and struggling more with their mental health amid a housing crisis. Well, it's the ones that are actually dating and marrying that are having the mental health struggles. Those that are fine with 2D, they're okay. They're fine. The Page Research Center CEO Gerard Holland spoke at the Aspire conference in Sydney this week to talk about Australia's biggest political, economic, and social issues. Young people want to build their lives on a firm foundation, not on the uncertainty of a volatile rental market and a one-bedder apartment in Zetland or Strathfield. Oh, you mean you can't raise a family of 4 there in a one-bedroom apartment? Shit, that's news to me. He added that there is such little hope to achieving the Australian dream upon which our social construct between generations has been built. Well, this is why everyone just laughs when the social contract gets brought up. Oh, you need to do your duty to society because of this social contract that you never agreed to but applies to you anyway. Like, oh, okay, so when does society live up to its end of the social contract? Crickets. It's any wonder why that more and more young people are identifying as depressed and pessimistic about the future. I'm actually pretty optimistic, but what I'm optimistic for would make a lot of other people pessimistic. Mr. Holland told Sky News host Stevie Price that Gen Z men are struggling to find identity, purpose, and aspiration in modern Australia while being told to form indoctrination and cultural messaging how to view themselves. This has happened as young boys and particularly young white boys have been told that they are the baddies, they are evil, they are everything that's gone wrong with the world. Their history is oppressive. I think a lot of young men are feeling, well, what place do I have? Where do I find an identity? What's my story? I'm glad these guys are slowly starting to notice, but you really don't want to continue down this train of thought because a lot of the cucks, yes, they get depressed and start thinking this way. Most men, they just respond with, well, fuck you too. Like, they don't get depressed. They just like, okay, if society views me as an evil, expendable tool to just milk for all I'm worth and discard, I'm going to view society the same way. So that's the kind of that's the new social contract. It's two sides trying to fuck each other. That's all it is. Well, how can I be aspirational in this country when increasingly from every what? I'm being told that I'm the problem. Oh, it's not even just that. When these white men find out that they're being passed over for jobs for DEI hires, how do you expect them to think, oh, I just need to work harder and get a job and buy a house from the money I make bussing tables at a local cafe? It doesn't matter how hard they work if all the jobs are given to diversity hires anyway. So they stop focusing on how they can fit in with society, and then they shift their focus to, how can I ensure my survival in this society by any means necessary? Gen Z, broadly defined those born between the late 90s and early 2010s, now spans teenagers through adults nearing the age of 30. Damn, Gen Z is old. Mr. Holland pointed to worsening mental health outcomes among young men, arguing that the issue extends beyond the challenges faced by earlier generations. He said that around a third of young Australian men identifies having a serious mental health disorder. Around 10% experience substance abuse issues, and self-Minecraft has overtaken car accidents and disease as the leading cause of death among young males. And now that you're realizing your workhorse population is dipping, you're starting to get worried, huh? You don't really care about them. You only care about what they can do for you. Australia is also an outlier internationally, with young men taking their lives at roughly 3 times the rate of young women's, higher than the global average gap. I think undoubtedly a lot of young men are retreating, and be that to video games or adult content. They're not getting married. They're not having kids. They're not going on dates. They're not having sex. This is increasingly a sexist generation compared to their forebears. Have you guys seen what their options are, though? I look, these boomers come from a generation where the average woman weighed less than them. Yeah, these young guys don't really have that many good choices, except for going 2D. You can never go wrong by just going 2D. So economic pressures are identified as a major contributing factor, particularly housing affordability and declining rates of home ownership, particularly among young Australians, which he said historically provided a sense of stability and long-term aspiration. I think there's a lot that can be done. I mean, housing affordability is a big one. Under 35s had the lowest home ownership on record. So it's just under a third in the 80s. It was around 60%. So there's been that collapse. And of course, that of course has, delays other life milestones. So getting the housing crisis under wraps, I think, would be immediate relief. Why don't you let China buy more of it as an investment? I'm sure nothing could go wrong. Westpac report found that more than 1 in 3, or 35% of Gen Z Australians plan to buy their first home within 5 years, up 5% since January of current year -1. Though, according to a home ownership report, young Aussies have been doubling down on the bid to own a home, with 37% fueled by a desire for independence and 34% of buyers motivated by financial security. You will have a lot more financial security if you actually own the house. If you have a paid off house, oh yeah, that makes a difference. Because for most people, their rent or mortgage bill is by far their biggest bill of the month. Imagine not having to pay that, but you have to get there. Rent also contributed to a 32% Gen Z buyers' reasons for wanting to buy a home, which many daunted by the idea of renting forever. Oh, that's another thing too. Given how quickly prices are inflating and shitification is taking root, there's a lot of people out there who bought a house a few years ago, and now their monthly payment on their mortgage is less than the rent on fucking studio apartments in their area. So yeah, they're pretty happy. He's like, man, am I glad I went and bought that house when I did, as opposed to continuing to rent. It is a little bit riskier because it's a lot harder to just walk away from something you own, allegedly, or at least owe money on. But yeah, like if you wait long enough, as inflation continues to do its thing, you're going to save money in the long run. The CEO of Page Research Center also argued that indoctrination systems and public institutions should place great emphasis on national history and positive identity formation. They aren't guilty by association. They too can have an incredible part to play in our Australian story. We need to believe in them, tell them that they're needed, that they're wanted, and that they're loved, he said. So you're starting to realize that telling them that they're evil and that they're hated and that they're unwanted is causing all of your workhorses to leave. And now you need someone to do actual work and not just sit in an office. Now you need them back, huh? Well, that kind of focus in our indoctrination, that's the kind of that kind of language from the government, the kind of story from our media institutions, I think could go a long way to giving boys a place to and really giving them encouragement. Which, I mean, these guys aren't wrong, but I think most of these boys aren't willing to come back at this point. I think most of them don't even care anymore. Like they've already been backstabbed and used and abused and discarded. They'll milk you for money, but that's about it.